Welcome to a journey through the wonders of science, a gentle exploration of the fascinating facts that shape our universe and our understanding of the world around us. As you relax and let these words wash over you, allow your mind to absorb the extraordinary nature of reality itself. In the vast expanse of space, there exists a region so dark that it contains almost nothing, a void called the Boötes void, spanning approximately 330 million light-years across, one of the largest known voids in the universe. This immense emptiness contains far fewer galaxies than expected, creating a cosmic mystery that scientists continue to study. Our own galaxy, the Milky Way, contains an estimated 100 to 400 billion stars, each one a sun in its own right, many potentially hosting their own families of planets. The light from some of these stars has traveled for thousands of years to reach your eyes, meaning when you look up at the night sky, you are literally looking back in time. The speed of light is approximately 299,790,2,458 meters per second, a cosmic speed limit that nothing with mass can exceed. This fundamental constant shapes the very fabric of space and time, limiting how quickly information can travel through the universe. Photons, the particles of light, have no mass and exist in a timeless state, experiencing no passage of time from their own perspective as they traverse the cosmos. Your body is made of atoms that were forged in the hearts of ancient stars that exploded billions of years ago, scattering their elements across space where they eventually coalesced into our solar system, our planet, and ultimately into you. Every carbon atom in your body, every oxygen molecule you breathe, every calcium atom in your bones was created through nuclear fusion in stellar cores, or in the violent explosions of supernovae. You are quite literally made of stardust, a cosmic being contemplating its own cosmic origins. The human brain contains approximately 86 billion neurons, each one forming thousands of connections with other neurons, creating a network of extraordinary complexity that gives rise to consciousness, thought, memory, and dreams. These neurons communicate through electrical signals and chemical messengers called neurotransmitters, creating the symphony of neural activity that is your mind. Every second, your brain processes an enormous amount of information, filtering most of it from your conscious awareness so you can focus on what matters most in each moment. The phenomenon of neuroplasticity means your brain is constantly rewiring itself based on your experiences, learning, and thoughts, physically changing its structure throughout your lifetime. When you learn something new, your brain forms new neural connections and strengthens existing ones, physically altering its architecture. This means that your mind is never static, but always growing, changing, and adapting to the world around you. In the depths of the ocean, where sunlight cannot penetrate, there exists a realm of perpetual darkness inhabited by creatures that have evolved bioluminescence, the ability to produce their own light through chemical reactions. The anglerfish dangles a luminous lure to attract prey in the absolute blackness of the deep sea. The ocean covers more than 70% of Earth's surface, yet we have explored less than 5% of it, meaning there are vast underwater worlds that remain completely unknown to us. The deepest point in the ocean, the Challenger Deep in the Mariana Trench, reaches approximately 36,000 feet below sea level, deeper than Mount Everest is tall. At these crushing depths, the pressure is more than 1,000 times that at sea level, yet life still finds a way to exist. Strange creatures like giant tube worms, amphipods, and unique species of fish have adapted to survive in these extreme conditions, demonstrating life's remarkable resilience. The Earth itself is constantly in motion, though we rarely perceive it. Our planet rotates on its axis at approximately 1,000 miles per hour at the equator, completing one full rotation every 24 hours, creating the cycle of day and night. Simultaneously, Earth orbits the Sun at an average speed of about 67,000 miles per hour, completing one full orbit in approximately 365.25 days, giving us our year. The entire solar system, including the Sun and all its planets, orbits around the center of the Milky Way galaxy at an astounding speed of about 514,000 miles per hour, taking approximately 230 million years to complete one galactic orbit. This means that in the time since dinosaurs first appeared on Earth, our solar system has completed less than one full trip around the galaxy. The Earth's magnetic field, generated by the movement of molten iron in its outer core, acts as a protective shield deflecting harmful solar radiation and cosmic rays that would otherwise strip away our atmosphere and make life on the surface impossible. This magnetic field is not constant but shifts and changes over time, and periodically undergoes complete reversals where north and south magnetic poles swap positions, an event that has occurred hundreds of times throughout Earth's history. The last magnetic reversal happened approximately 780,000 years ago, and scientists believe we may be overdue for another one, though the process typically takes thousands of years to complete. Trees and plants, which seem so still and silent, are actually engaged in constant chemical communication and resource sharing through vast underground networks of fungal filaments called mycorrhizal networks. These fungal threads connect the root systems of different trees and plants, allowing them to exchange nutrients, water, and even chemical warning signals about pest attacks or environmental stress. A mother tree can recognize its own offspring and preferentially send them additional nutrients through these networks, nurturing the next generation. Plants can count, measure time, and remember past events, displaying forms of intelligence very different from our own, but no less remarkable. The Venus flytrap, for example, can count the number of times its trigger hairs are touched and will only snap shut after receiving 2 touches within about 20 seconds. A mechanism that prevents wasting energy on false alarms like raindrops or debris. Some plants can hear the sound of running water and grow their roots toward it, demonstrating a form of auditory perception. Others release chemical compounds into the air when under attack by herbivores, warning neighboring plants of the danger so they can activate their own chemical defenses. The natural world is filled with such intelligence and cooperation, challenging our assumptions about consciousness and awareness. Quantum mechanics, the physics of the very small, reveals a reality far stranger than we could have imagined. At the quantum scale, particles exist in multiple states simultaneously until observed, a phenomenon called superposition. An electron can be in many places at once, following all possible paths, until the moment we measure its position, at which point it collapses into a single definite location. This is not because our measurement is clumsy or imprecise, but because the particle genuinely does not have a definite position until it is observed, existing instead as a wave of probability. 2 particles can become entangled, linked in such a way that measuring one instantly affects the other, no matter how far apart they are, even if separated by the entire width of the universe. Einstein famously called this spooky action at a distance and initially rejected the idea, but experiments have repeatedly confirmed that quantum entanglement is real. This phenomenon suggests that, at the deepest level, everything in the universe may be connected in ways we are only beginning to understand. The nature of time itself becomes mysterious at the quantum level and in the realm of relativity. According to Einstein's theory of relativity, time is not absolute but relative, flowing at different rates depending on how fast you are moving and how strong the gravitational field is where you are located. If you were to travel in a spaceship at speeds approaching the speed of light, time would pass more slowly for you than for people back on Earth. And you could theoretically travel into Earth's future by journeying away and returning. This time dilation has been precisely measured using atomic clocks on airplanes and satellites, confirming that time truly is relative. Near a black hole where gravity is immensely strong, time slows down dramatically, and at the event horizon, the point of no return, time essentially stops from the perspective of a distant observer. Black holes themselves are regions of space where gravity is so intense that nothing, not even light, can escape once it crosses the event horizon. These cosmic objects form when massive stars collapse at the end of their lives, compressing enormous amounts of mass into an infinitesimally small point called a singularity, where the laws of physics as we know them break down. At the center of most large galaxies, including our own Milky Way, sits a supermassive black hole containing millions or even billions of times the mass of our Sun. The black hole at the center of our galaxy, called Sagittarius A, has a mass equivalent to about 4 million suns. Despite their fearsome reputation, black holes are not cosmic vacuum cleaners indiscriminately sucking up everything around them. They only capture material that ventures too close, within their gravitational reach. The study of DNA has revealed the intricate instruction manual encoded in every living cell. Your DNA, if stretched out, would measure about 6 feet long, but it is so tightly coiled and packaged that it fits inside the nucleus of a cell too small to see without a microscope. The complete human genome contains approximately 3 billion base pairs, the chemical letters that spell out the genetic instructions for building and maintaining a human being. Yet only about 1.5% of this genetic material actually codes for proteins, the molecular machines that perform most cellular functions. The rest, once dismissed as junk DNA, is now understood to play important regulatory roles, controlling when and where genes are activated. Remarkably, humans share about 99.9% of their DNA with each other, meaning all the diversity you see among people, all the differences in appearance, personality, and ability, arise from variations in less than 0.1% of our genetic code. We also share significant amounts of DNA with other species. Humans and chimpanzees share approximately 98.8% of their DNA, reflecting our common evolutionary ancestry. We share about 60% of our genes with fruit flies and approximately 50% with bananas, demonstrating the deep connections among all living things and the conservation of fundamental biological mechanisms across millions of years of evolution. Evolution itself is not a linear march toward perfection, but a branching tree of descent with modification, shaped by natural selection, genetic drift, and random chance. The diversity of life on Earth, from bacteria to blue whales, from ancient ferns to flowering orchids, all traces back to a common ancestor that lived billions of years ago. The evidence for evolution is overwhelming and comes from multiple independent sources including fossils, comparative anatomy, molecular biology, and direct observation of evolutionary processes in action. Bacteria can evolve resistance to antibiotics within years or even months, demonstrating evolution happening in real time. The fossil record preserves snapshots of ancient life, documenting the history of life on Earth and revealing organisms that once thrived but are now extinct. More than 99% of all species that have ever lived on Earth are now extinct, wiped out by environmental changes, competition, predation, or catastrophic events. 5 major mass extinction events have occurred in Earth's history, the most famous being the one 66 million years ago that ended the reign of the non-avian dinosaurs when an asteroid struck the Yucatan Peninsula in what is now Mexico. The impact released energy equivalent to billions of nuclear bombs, triggering global firestorms, tsunamis, and a long winter caused by dust and debris blocking out the sun. Yet life persisted, and the extinction of the dinosaurs opened ecological niches that allowed mammals, previously small and relatively insignificant, to diversify and eventually give rise to humans. Birds are the direct descendants of theropod dinosaurs, meaning that dinosaurs did not entirely go extinct, but continue to live among us in a modified form. The chickadee at your bird feeder shares a common ancestor with Tyrannosaurus rex. Flight evolved multiple independent times in different lineages, appearing in insects, pterosaurs, birds, and bats, each solving the challenge of flight in different ways. The principles of flight require generating lift to overcome gravity and thrust to overcome drag, achieved through wings shaped and moved in ways that create differences in air pressure. Insects, despite their small size, are master aviators, capable of flying backwards, hovering in place, and performing aerial maneuvers that human engineers struggle to replicate with artificial drones. A bee can carry pollen equal to about 30% of its body weight while flying, an impressive feat of aerial load-bearing. The honeybee performs a waggle dance to communicate the location of food sources to other members of the hive, encoding information about distance and direction relative to the sun's position in the movements of the dance, a sophisticated form of symbolic communication. The hive operates as a superorganism, with thousands of individual bees functioning as cells in a larger collective intelligence, making decisions through decentralized processes that often find optimal solutions to complex problems like selecting new nest sites. The mathematical precision found in nature is astounding. The spiral patterns in sunflower seed heads, pine cones, and nautilus shells often follow the Fibonacci sequence, a series of numbers where each number is the sum of the two preceding ones, creating ratios that approximate the golden ratio, approximately 1.618. This mathematical relationship appears throughout nature because it represents efficient packing and growth patterns. The hexagonal cells of a honeycomb represent the most efficient way to divide a surface into equal areas with the least amount of material, a problem that bees solved through evolution long before humans developed the mathematics to prove it. Snowflakes form intricate hexagonal crystals, each one unique. Because of the molecular structure of water and the specific temperature and humidity conditions the snowflake encounters as it forms and falls through clouds. The saying that no two snowflakes are alike is essentially true. Given the virtually infinite number of possible variations in crystal structure and the unique path each snowflake takes through the atmosphere, water itself is an extraordinary substance with unusual properties that make life possible. It is one of the few substances that expands when it freezes, which is why ice floats on liquid water. This seemingly simple fact has profound implications, because if ice sank, bodies of water would freeze from the bottom up, likely killing most aquatic life during winter and potentially freezing the ocean solid. Water's high heat capacity means it can absorb or release large amounts of heat with relatively small changes in temperature, which is why oceans moderate Earth's climate, preventing extreme temperature swings. Water is also an excellent solvent, capable of dissolving more substances than any other liquid, earning it the title of universal solvent and making it essential for the chemistry of life. The human body is approximately 60% water, though this percentage varies with age, sex, and body composition. Every system in your body depends on water to function, from transporting nutrients and oxygen to regulating temperature and cushioning joints. Your brain is about 73% water, and even slight dehydration can affect mood, energy levels, and cognitive function. You lose water constantly through breathing, sweating, and elimination, which is why regular water intake is essential. The sensation of thirst is regulated by your hypothalamus, which monitors the concentration of particles in your blood and triggers the desire to drink when concentration rises above optimal levels. Taste itself is a chemical sense, with taste receptors on your tongue detecting molecules in food and drink. You can perceive 5 basic tastes: sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami, a savory taste associated with glutamate found in meat, cheese, and mushrooms. Much of what we call taste is actually smell, which is why food seems flavorless when you have a stuffy nose. Smell is processed by the olfactory system, which can distinguish among thousands of different odors. Scent molecules drift through the air, enter your nose, and bind to receptor cells that send signals directly to the olfactory bulb in your brain, which is closely connected to areas involved in memory and emotion. This is why smells can trigger vivid memories and strong emotional responses, taking you back to moments from your past with startling clarity. The connection between smell and memory is particularly strong because of the anatomical relationship between the olfactory system and the hippocampus and amygdala, brain structures involved in memory formation and emotional processing. Sound is created by vibrations traveling through air, water, or solid materials as pressure waves. Your ears detect these vibrations and convert them into electrical signals your brain interprets as sound. The human ear can detect frequencies ranging from about 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz, though this range decreases with age, particularly for high frequencies. Many animals can hear frequencies beyond human perception, with dogs hearing up to about 45,000 Hz and bats detecting frequencies exceeding 100,000 Hz, which they use for echolocation, navigating, and hunting by emitting ultrasonic calls and listening to the echoes that bounce back from objects. Dolphins and whales also use echolocation in the ocean's darkness, sending out clicks and whistles and interpreting the returning echoes to create a sonic picture of their surroundings. The songs of humpback whales can travel hundreds of miles through ocean water, allowing these massive creatures to communicate across vast distances. Each population of humpback whales has its own distinct song that evolves over time, with all males in a population singing essentially the same version of the song in a given breeding season, then gradually modifying it, creating a cultural transmission of vocal traditions. The complexity and beauty of whale songs suggest a rich inner life and social structure we are only beginning to understand. On land, elephants communicate over long distances using infrasound, sounds below the range of human hearing, which can travel through the ground as well as through the air. Other elephants detect these vibrations through sensitive nerve endings in their feet and trunks, allowing herds to coordinate movements and maintain social bonds even when separated by miles. Elephants have remarkable memories and complex social structures, with females living in tight-knit family groups led by a matriarch who holds decades of knowledge about resources, dangers, and migration routes. Elephants demonstrate empathy, grieving for their dead, showing concern for injured family members, and even appearing to pay respects at the bones of deceased elephants. Such behaviors challenge the notion that emotions and consciousness are uniquely human traits, revealing that many animals experience rich emotional lives. The problem of consciousness itself remains one of the deepest mysteries in science and philosophy. How does the physical matter of the brain give rise to subjective experience, to the feeling of what it is like to be you? This is called the hard problem of consciousness, and despite tremendous advances in neuroscience, we still do not have a complete answer. We can map brain activity and correlate certain neural patterns with conscious states, but we cannot fully explain how objective physical processes create subjective feelings and awareness. Some philosophers and scientists suggest consciousness may be a fundamental feature of the universe, like space, time, and matter, rather than something that emerges only from complex brain activity. This view, called panpsychism, proposes that consciousness exists in some form even in simple systems. And what we experience as human consciousness is a particularly complex and integrated version of something more universal. While controversial, such ideas reflect the profound difficulty of explaining consciousness within a purely materialist framework. Dreams represent another fascinating frontier of consciousness research. During REM sleep, your brain is highly active, sometimes more active than when you are awake. Yet you are disconnected from external sensory input, and your muscles are paralyzed to prevent you from acting out your dreams. Dreams can be vivid, emotional, and bizarre, following dream logic that seems perfectly reasonable while you are asleep, but absurd when you wake. The purpose of dreaming is still debated, with theories suggesting dreams help process emotions, consolidate memories, rehearse responses to threats, or simply represent random neural activity that your brain tries to interpret as a coherent narrative. Whatever their purpose, dreams reveal the extraordinary creativity of your mind, generating entire worlds, characters, and experiences from the stored information and neural patterns in your brain. Lucid dreaming, the state of being aware you are dreaming while still asleep, allows some people to consciously explore and even control their dream environments, demonstrating the remarkable flexibility of consciousness. Sleep itself is essential for health, memory, and cognitive function, yet we spend about 1/3 of our lives asleep, a seemingly vulnerable state that evolution has preserved because its benefits outweigh the costs. During sleep, your brain consolidates memories, moving information from short-term to long-term storage, and clears away metabolic waste products that accumulate during waking hours. A system called the glymphatic system becomes more active during sleep, flushing toxins from the brain, including proteins associated with Alzheimer's disease. Chronic sleep deprivation impairs judgment, reaction time, and emotional regulation, and increases the risk of numerous health problems including obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and weakened immune function. The immune system itself is a marvel of biological defense, a complex network of cells, tissues, and organs working together to protect you from pathogens like bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites. Your skin and mucous membranes form the first line of defense, physical barriers that keep most invaders out. If pathogens breach these barriers, the innate immune system responds quickly with general defenses like inflammation and fever, while specialized white blood cells engulf and destroy invaders. The adaptive immune system learns from each infection, creating memory cells that recognize specific pathogens and mount faster, stronger responses if those pathogens return, which is the principle behind vaccination. Vaccines expose your immune system to a harmless version of a pathogen, training it to recognize and fight the real thing without causing disease. This has allowed humanity to eradicate smallpox and nearly eliminate polio, diseases that once killed and disabled millions. The development of antibiotics and vaccines represents one of the greatest achievements in the history of medicine, extending human lifespan and reducing suffering on a massive scale. Yet challenges remain, including the rise of antibiotic-resistant bacteria due to overuse and misuse of antibiotics, reminding us that evolution continues and pathogens adapt to our defenses. The complexity of life extends down to the molecular level, where proteins fold into precise three-dimensional shapes that determine their function. A protein's function depends entirely on its shape, and even a small change in the amino acid sequence can alter folding and create dysfunction. As happens in diseases like sickle cell anemia and cystic fibrosis. Enzymes are specialized proteins that catalyze chemical reactions, speeding them up by factors of millions or billions, making the chemistry of life possible. Without enzymes, the reactions necessary for life would occur too slowly to sustain living organisms. Your body contains thousands of different enzymes, each catalyzing specific reactions with remarkable precision. The lock-and-key model of enzyme action describes how enzymes bind to specific substrate molecules, catalyze a reaction, and release the products, then return to their original state, ready to catalyze another reaction. This molecular machinery operates with extraordinary efficiency and specificity, demonstrating the elegance of biochemical systems refined over billions of years of evolution. The origin of life itself remains one of the great unsolved puzzles. Though scientists have made significant progress in understanding how simple, organic molecules could have formed and organized into self-replicating systems. Early Earth had a very different atmosphere than today, lacking oxygen but rich in methane, ammonia, and other compounds. Laboratory experiments have shown that passing energy through mixtures of these simple molecules can create amino acids, the building blocks of proteins and nucleotides, the building blocks of DNA and RNA. RNA, which can both store information like DNA and catalyze reactions like enzymes, may have been the first self-replicating molecule, solving the chicken and egg problem of which came first. Genetic information, or the enzymes needed to copy it. This RNA world hypothesis suggests that early life was based on RNA before DNA and proteins evolved. Over time, these molecular systems became enclosed in membranes, creating the first primitive cells, which then evolved through natural selection into the vast diversity of life we see today. The age of the Earth is approximately 4.5 billion years, determined through radiometric dating of rocks and meteorites. The oldest known rocks on Earth are about 4 billion years old, and the oldest evidence of life, in the form of chemical signatures in ancient rocks, dates back approximately 3.7 billion years. Meaning life arose relatively quickly after the planet formed and cooled enough to support it. For most of Earth's history, life consisted only of single-celled organisms, with multicellular life not appearing until about 600 million years ago. The Cambrian explosion, approximately 541 million years ago, saw a rapid diversification of life forms, with most major animal body plans appearing in a geologically short period. This burst of evolutionary innovation may have been triggered by rising oxygen levels, the evolution of predation, or genetic innovations that allowed greater developmental complexity. The oxygen in our atmosphere is itself a product of life, created through photosynthesis by ancient bacteria called cyanobacteria that began producing oxygen as a waste product billions of years ago. Initially, this oxygen combined with dissolved iron in the oceans, creating vast deposits of iron ore that we mine today. Eventually, oxygen began accumulating in the atmosphere, fundamentally changing Earth's chemistry and paving the way for oxygen-breathing life forms like ourselves. This is a profound example of how life shapes the planet, not just the other way around. The Gaia hypothesis, proposed by scientist James Lovelock, suggests that Earth's living organisms and their environment form a self-regulating system that maintains conditions suitable for life. Though the degree to which this regulation is active versus incidental remains debated. What is clear is that life and environment are deeply interconnected, each influencing the other in complex feedback loops. Climate itself is a complex system influenced by many factors including solar radiation, atmospheric composition, ocean currents, ice cover, and vegetation. Carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases trap heat in the atmosphere, warming the planet, a natural greenhouse effect without which Earth would be too cold for life as we know it. Human activities, particularly burning fossil fuels, have increased atmospheric carbon dioxide concentrations by more than 40% since pre-industrial times, enhancing the greenhouse effect and driving global warming. The evidence for climate change is overwhelming and comes from multiple independent sources including temperature records, melting ice, rising sea levels, and shifts in plant and animal ranges. The consequences include more frequent and intense heat waves, droughts, floods, and storms, as well as disruptions to ecosystems and agriculture. Addressing climate change requires global cooperation and a transition away from fossil fuels toward renewable energy sources like solar, wind, and hydroelectric power. The sun itself is a massive nuclear fusion reactor, converting hydrogen into helium and releasing tremendous amounts of energy in the process. Every second, the sun converts about 600 million tons of hydrogen into helium, releasing energy equivalent to billions of nuclear bombs. This energy travels through space as electromagnetic radiation, taking about 8 minutes to reach Earth, where it drives weather, climate, ocean currents, and photosynthesis. The sun has been shining for approximately 4.6 billion years and will continue for another 5 billion years before exhausting its hydrogen fuel, at which point it will swell into a red giant, engulfing the inner planets including Earth, then collapse into a white dwarf, a dense stellar remnant about the size of Earth but containing most of the sun's original mass. Understanding stellar evolution helps us comprehend the life cycles of stars throughout the universe, from their birth in collapsing clouds of gas and dust to their deaths as white dwarfs. Neutron stars, or black holes depending on their mass. The heaviest elements like gold, platinum, and uranium are created during supernova explosions or in the collisions of neutron stars, then scattered into space where they can be incorporated into new stars, planets, and eventually living beings. This means the gold in jewelry, the uranium in nuclear reactors, and the heavy elements in your body were forged in stellar cataclysms, making you quite literally a child of the cosmos. As you rest now, these facts swirl gently through your mind, connecting you to the deep history of the universe and the intricate beauty of the natural world. Science reveals a reality far more wonderful than any fiction, a cosmos vast beyond comprehension, yet governed by elegant mathematical laws we can discover and understand. From the quantum fluctuations that permeate empty space to the vast cosmic web of galaxy superclusters stretching across billions of light years. From the double helix of DNA to the complex ecosystem of your own gut microbiome containing trillions of bacteria that aid digestion and influence health, the universe is filled with patterns, processes, and phenomena that inspire awe and curiosity. Sleep now, knowing you are part of this magnificent cosmic story, your atoms recycled stardust, your consciousness an emergent property of organized matter. Your life a brief but meaningful chapter in the ongoing saga of complexity and awareness in the universe. Let these scientific truths comfort you, grounding you in the reality that we are all connected, all participants in the grand experiment of existence, all seeking to understand our place in the cosmos. Rest well, and let your dreams explore the infinite possibilities that science continues to reveal. The electromagnetic spectrum extends far beyond the narrow band of visible light our eyes can detect. Radio waves, with wavelengths measuring from millimeters to kilometers, carry signals for communication and are also emitted by astronomical objects, allowing radio telescopes to observe the universe in frequencies invisible to optical telescopes. Microwaves with shorter wavelengths are used in cooking and telecommunications, and cosmic microwave background radiation fills the universe, the afterglow of the Big Bang itself, providing a snapshot of the universe when it was only 380,000 years old. Infrared radiation, which we perceive as heat, reveals thermal signatures invisible to the naked eye and allows us to see through dust clouds in space where stars are born. Beyond visible light come ultraviolet rays, which cause sunburn and are mostly absorbed by Earth's ozone layer, protecting life from harmful radiation. X-rays with even shorter wavelengths and higher energy can penetrate soft tissue but are absorbed by bones, making them useful for medical imaging. Gamma rays, the most energetic form of electromagnetic radiation, are produced by radioactive decay, nuclear reactions, and the most violent events in the universe like supernovae and gamma ray bursts, some of the brightest electromagnetic events known to occur in the universe, releasing more energy in seconds than the sun will emit in its entire lifetime. The entire electromagnetic spectrum represents different wavelengths of the same phenomenon, waves of electric and magnetic fields oscillating through space, all traveling at the speed of light but carrying different amounts of energy. The study of light and electromagnetic radiation has revolutionized our understanding of the universe, allowing us to observe distant galaxies, analyze the composition of stars, detect exoplanets orbiting other stars, and even image black holes. The first image of a black hole, captured in 2019 by the Event Horizon Telescope collaboration, showed the shadow of the supermassive black hole at the center of galaxy M87. A monumental achievement requiring coordination of radio telescopes around the world to create an Earth-sized virtual telescope. Mathematics is the language of the universe, describing patterns and relationships with precision and elegance. Numbers themselves are human inventions, symbols representing quantity and magnitude, but the mathematical relationships they describe appear to be fundamental to reality. The Pythagorean theorem, which states that in a right triangle the square of the hypotenuse equals the sum of squares of the other two sides, has been independently discovered by multiple cultures and holds true regardless of the triangle's size or location in the universe. Pi, the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter, approximately 3.14159, is an irrational number, meaning its decimal representation goes on forever without repeating. Yet this number appears throughout mathematics and physics in equations describing everything from circular motion to quantum mechanics. Euler's identity, which states that e raised to the power of pi times I plus 1 equals 0, has been called the most beautiful equation in mathematics because it connects 5 fundamental constants, e pi I 1 and 0, in an unexpectedly simple relationship. The number e, approximately 2.71828, is the base of natural logarithms and appears in equations describing exponential growth and decay. From population dynamics to radioactive decay to compound interest. Complex numbers, which include the imaginary unit I defined as the square root of -1, are essential in quantum mechanics and electrical engineering, demonstrating that mathematical concepts initially thought to be purely abstract can have profound practical applications. Calculus, developed independently by Isaac Newton and Gottfried Leibniz in the 17th century, provides tools for analyzing rates of change and accumulation, enabling precise descriptions of motion, optimization problems, and dynamic systems. Integration and differentiation, the two fundamental operations of calculus, are inverse operations, and their relationship is expressed in the fundamental theorem of calculus. These mathematical tools allowed physics to become quantitative and predictive, leading to the scientific revolution and the technological world we inhabit today. Probability and statistics provide frameworks for understanding uncertainty and making inferences from data, essential in fields ranging from quantum physics to medicine to economics. The normal distribution, or bell curve, describes many naturally occurring phenomena where values cluster around a mean with decreasing frequency as you move away from the mean. Statistical methods allow scientists to test hypotheses, determine whether observed effects are real or due to random chance, and estimate parameters from samples. The scientific method itself relies on careful observation, hypothesis formation, experimental testing, and revision based on evidence. A process that has proven remarkably effective at producing reliable knowledge about the natural world. Yet science is always provisional, open to revision in light of new evidence, distinguishing it from dogma or belief systems based on authority or revelation. The history of science is filled with paradigm shifts, where accepted theories were overturned or significantly modified. From the geocentric model of the solar system, to phlogiston theory of combustion, to classical mechanics being superseded by quantum mechanics and relativity for describing extreme conditions. This self-correcting nature is a strength of science, not a weakness, demonstrating intellectual humility and commitment to following evidence wherever it leads. Technology, the application of scientific knowledge for practical purposes, has transformed human civilization. The invention of agriculture approximately 10,000 years ago allowed humans to settle in permanent communities, leading to the development of cities, writing, specialization of labor, and complex societies. The Industrial Revolution, beginning in the 18th century, mechanized production and harnessed fossil fuels to power machines, dramatically increasing productivity and changing patterns of work and life. The digital revolution, accelerating in the late 20th century, brought computers, the internet and information technology that have connected the world and created new modes of communication. Commerce and culture. Computers operate using binary logic, representing all information as sequences of ones and zeros, processed by transistors that act as switches turning on or off billions of times per second. Modern microprocessors contain billions of transistors etched onto silicon chips using photolithography, a precision manufacturing process where features are now measured in nanometers, smaller than many viruses. Moore's law observed that the number of transistors on integrated circuits doubles approximately every 2 years, a trend that held for decades and drove exponential improvements in computing power, though physical limits are now causing this trend to slow. Quantum computers represent a fundamentally different approach to computation. Using quantum superposition and entanglement to perform certain calculations exponentially faster than classical computers, potentially revolutionizing fields like cryptography, drug discovery, and optimization problems, though building reliable large-scale quantum computers remains a significant engineering challenge. Artificial intelligence and machine learning have made remarkable progress in recent years, with neural networks inspired by brain structure learning to recognize images, understand natural language, play complex games, and generate creative content, though these systems still lack the general intelligence and understanding that humans possess. The human body contains approximately 37 trillion cells, each one a complex molecular machine carrying out thousands of chemical reactions simultaneously. Red blood cells transport oxygen from lungs to tissues using hemoglobin, a protein containing iron atoms that bind oxygen reversibly. White blood cells defend against infection, with different types serving different functions, from engulfing pathogens to producing antibodies to coordinating immune responses. Platelets help blood clot, forming plugs that seal damaged blood vessels and prevent excessive bleeding. Your heart beats approximately 100,000 times per day, pumping about 2,000 gallons of blood through a network of blood vessels that, if laid end to end, would stretch about 60,000 miles, enough to circle the Earth more than twice. The circulatory system operates as a closed loop, with the heart acting as a dual pump, the right side pumping oxygen-poor blood to the lungs where it picks up oxygen, the left side pumping oxygen-rich blood to the rest of the body. Blood pressure represents the force blood exerts on vessel walls, measured as two numbers: systolic pressure when the heart contracts and diastolic pressure when the heart relaxes between beats. The lymphatic system, often overlooked, parallels the circulatory system, collecting fluid that leaks from blood vessels, filtering it through lymph nodes where immune cells screen for pathogens, and returning it to the bloodstream, playing crucial roles in fluid balance and immune function. Your liver, one of the largest organs, performs over 500 different functions, including filtering toxins from blood, producing bile to aid digestion, storing vitamins and minerals, synthesizing proteins, and regulating blood sugar levels. The liver has remarkable regenerative capacity and can regrow to full size from as little as 25% of its original tissue, a property that makes liver transplantation possible. Your kidneys filter approximately 50 gallons of blood daily, removing waste products and excess water to form urine while retaining necessary substances. A remarkable feat of selective filtration, accomplished by millions of microscopic units called nephrons. The digestive system breaks down food into nutrients through mechanical and chemical processes. Beginning in the mouth where teeth grind food and saliva begins chemical digestion, continuing in the stomach where acid and enzymes break down proteins, and completing in the small intestine where most nutrient absorption occurs with help from the liver and pancreas. The pancreas produces digestive enzymes and hormones, including insulin and glucagon, that regulate blood sugar levels, demonstrating how organs can serve multiple functions. Insulin allows cells to take up glucose from blood, lowering blood sugar, while glucagon signals the liver to release stored glucose, raising blood sugar, maintaining the delicate balance necessary for cellular function. Diabetes occurs when this regulatory system fails, either because the pancreas produces insufficient insulin or because cells become resistant to insulin's effects, leading to elevated blood sugar levels that can damage blood vessels, nerves, and organs if left untreated. Your skeletal system provides structure, protects organs, stores minerals, and produces blood cells in bone marrow. Bones are living tissue constantly being broken down and rebuilt, a process called remodeling that allows bones to adapt to mechanical stress and repair damage. Weight-bearing exercise stimulates bone formation, which is why physical activity is important for maintaining bone density, especially as you age. Muscles work in opposing pairs, with one contracting while the other relaxes, pulling on bones to create movement. Skeletal muscles are under voluntary control, while cardiac muscle in the heart and smooth muscle in organs like the stomach and blood vessels operate involuntarily, controlled by the autonomic nervous system. Muscles contract when motor neurons trigger the release of calcium ions that allow myosin and actin filaments to slide past each other, generating force through molecular interactions. Energy for muscle contraction comes from ATP, adenosine triphosphate, the universal energy currency of cells. ATP stores energy in chemical bonds and releases it when needed, then is regenerated through cellular respiration, the process by which cells extract energy from nutrients. Cellular respiration occurs primarily in mitochondria, often called the powerhouses of cells, where glucose is broken down through a series of chemical reactions that transfer energy to ATP molecules. Aerobic respiration, which requires oxygen, is highly efficient, producing approximately 36 ATP molecules per glucose molecule, while anaerobic respiration, which occurs without oxygen, produces only 2 ATP per glucose, but allows muscles to function briefly when oxygen supply is insufficient, though it produces lactic acid as a byproduct, contributing to muscle fatigue and soreness. The sensation of muscle soreness after intense exercise is partially due to microscopic damage to muscle fibers, which triggers inflammation and repair processes that ultimately strengthen muscles through a process called hypertrophy, where muscle fibers increase in size. Your skin, the body's largest organ, serves as a barrier against infection, regulates temperature through sweating and blood flow, provides sensory information through touch receptors, and synthesizes vitamin D when exposed to sunlight. Skin constantly sheds dead cells from its outer layer and replaces them with new cells generated in deeper layers, completely renewing itself approximately every 28 days. Your skin's color is determined by melanin, a pigment produced by specialized cells called melanocytes, with variations in melanin production, accounting for the diversity of skin tones among human populations. Increased melanin production provides protection against ultraviolet radiation damage, which is why populations originating from regions with intense sunlight tend to have darker skin, while populations from regions with less sunlight have lighter skin that allows for more vitamin D synthesis. Hair and nails are made of keratin, a tough protein that also forms the outer layer of skin. Hair grows from follicles embedded in the skin, with growth rates varying by location and individual, typically about half an inch per month for scalp hair. The visible part of hair is dead tissue, while the follicle beneath the skin contains living cells that produce new hair. The nervous system coordinates all body functions through electrical and chemical signals. Neurons generate electrical impulses called action potentials that travel along axons at speeds up to 250 miles per hour in the fastest neurons. When an action potential reaches the end of an axon, it triggers the release of neurotransmitters, chemical messengers that cross the synaptic gap to the next neuron, continuing the signal. Different neurotransmitters have different effects, with some exciting neurons to fire and others inhibiting firing, creating complex patterns of activity that encode information. The brain's plasticity allows it to reorganize neural connections throughout life, though plasticity is highest in childhood when the brain is still developing. Learning a new language, musical instrument, or skill creates and strengthens neural pathways, physically altering brain structure, demonstrating that mental activity has tangible physical effects. Sleep appears to be when the brain consolidates memories and clears metabolic waste, explaining why sleep deprivation impairs cognitive function. Dreams occur primarily during REM sleep, characterized by rapid eye movements, paralyzed muscles, and brain activity patterns similar to waking states. Some researchers propose that dreams serve to process emotions and memories, while others suggest dreams are the brain's attempt to make sense of random neural activity. Regardless of their function, dreams demonstrate the brain's remarkable ability to generate vivid experiences entirely from internal neural activity, without external sensory input. The placebo effect demonstrates the power of expectation and belief to influence physical outcomes, with patients sometimes experiencing real improvements in symptoms when given inert treatments they believe are therapeutic. likely mediated through psychological and neurological mechanisms, including release of endorphins and changes in brain activity. This highlights the intimate connection between mind and body, challenging strict dualistic separation of mental and physical phenomena. Pain itself is a complex phenomenon involving sensory detection of tissue damage by specialized receptors, transmission of signals through the nervous system, and interpretation by the brain, which integrates sensory information with emotional, cognitive, and contextual factors to create the conscious experience of pain. This is why pain perception varies greatly among individuals and situations, with factors like attention, emotion, and expectation modulating can persist even after tissue heals, suggesting changes in the nervous system itself that amplify and maintain pain signals, a phenomenon called central sensitization. Understanding pain as a multidimensional experience with biological, psychological, and social components has led to more effective, comprehensive approaches to pain management. The sense of balance and spatial orientation comes from the vestibular system in the inner ear, which detects head movements and position relative to gravity, using fluid-filled semicircular canals and otolith organs containing tiny crystals that shift with head movements, stimulating sensory cells that send signals to the brain. This information is integrated with visual and proprioceptive inputs from muscles and joints to maintain balance and coordinate movement. Motion sickness occurs when there is a mismatch between visual and vestibular inputs, such as when you are in a moving vehicle and your vestibular system detects motion but your eyes, focused on the stationary interior, do not, creating sensory conflict that triggers nausea. Your sense of touch involves multiple types of receptors in the skin detecting pressure, vibration, temperature, and pain, with different receptor types specialized for different stimuli. Touch receptors are not evenly distributed, with higher density on fingertips, lips, and face, providing greater sensitivity in these areas. The two-point discrimination test demonstrates this, showing that you can distinguish 2 points touching your fingertip when they are much closer together than 2 points on your back, where receptors are more sparse. Proprioception, the sense of body position and movement, relies on receptors in muscles, tendons, and joints that provide continuous feedback about the position and movement of body parts, allowing you to know where your limbs are even with your eyes closed. This largely unconscious sense is essential for coordinated movement and is what allows you to touch your nose with your finger even in complete darkness. Temperature sensation involves separate receptors for heat and cold, with some receptors responding to warming and others to cooling. Extreme temperatures activate pain receptors as well, creating the burning or freezing sensations of temperatures that threaten tissue damage. Interestingly, capsaicin, the compound that makes chili pepper spicy, activates heat receptors, which is why spicy food creates a burning sensation even though no actual tissue damage occurs, demonstrating that these receptors respond to chemical triggers as well as thermal ones. The perception of temperature is relative and influenced by adaptation, which is why lukewarm water can feel hot to a cold hand and cold to a warm hand. The human body maintains a relatively constant internal temperature around 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit through thermoregulation, balancing heat production from metabolism with heat loss through radiation. Convection, evaporation, and conduction. When body temperature rises, blood vessels in the skin dilate to increase heat loss, and sweat glands secrete water that evaporates and cools the skin. When body temperature drops, blood vessels constrict to conserve heat and muscles may shiver, generating heat through rapid contractions. Fever represents an increase in the body's temperature set point, typically triggered by infection, as higher temperatures can help fight pathogens by enhancing immune function and creating a less favorable environment for bacteria and viruses. However, extremely high fever can be dangerous, potentially causing protein denaturation and cellular damage, which is why very high fevers require medical attention. The human body is remarkably resilient, capable of healing wounds, fighting infections, adapting to stress, and maintaining function across a wide range of conditions. Yet it is also vulnerable, requiring proper nutrition, rest, and care to function optimally. Nutrition science has revealed that the body requires a variety of nutrients, including carbohydrates for energy, proteins for building and repairing tissues, fats for energy storage and cellular function, vitamins and minerals for various biochemical processes, and water for maintaining fluid balance. Vitamins are organic compounds required in small amounts for specific metabolic functions, with deficiencies leading to characteristic diseases such as scurvy from lack of vitamin C, rickets from lack of vitamin D, and anemia from lack of vitamin B12 or iron. Minerals like calcium, iron, zinc, and magnesium play essential roles in bone structure, oxygen transport, immune function, and enzyme activity. The gut microbiome, the community of trillions of bacteria and other microorganisms living in your digestive tract, plays crucial roles in digestion, vitamin synthesis, immune function, and even influencing mood and behavior through the gut-brain axis. These microbes break down dietary fiber that human enzymes cannot digest, producing short-chain fatty acids that nourish intestinal cells and have anti-inflammatory effects. The composition of the gut microbiome varies greatly among individuals and is influenced by diet, antibiotics, and other factors, with research increasingly showing connections between microbiome composition and health outcomes. Fermented foods like yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, and kimchi contain live beneficial bacteria called probiotics that can temporarily colonize the gut and provide health benefits. Prebiotics are dietary fibers that feed beneficial gut bacteria, promoting their growth and activity. The relationship between humans and their gut microbes is symbiotic, with each providing benefits to the other, reminding us that we are not isolated organisms but ecosystems, hosting vast communities of microorganisms that are essential for our health and well-being. This broader ecological perspective extends beyond individual bodies to entire ecosystems, where countless species interact in complex webs of relationships. Ecosystems are characterized by energy flow and nutrient cycling, with energy entering through photosynthesis and flowing through food webs from producers to consumers to decomposers, while nutrients are recycled through biogeochemical cycles. The carbon cycle involves carbon moving between atmosphere, oceans, soil, and living organisms through processes like photosynthesis, respiration, decomposition, and combustion. Plants absorb carbon dioxide from the air during photosynthesis, converting it into organic compounds that store energy from sunlight. When organisms respire or decompose, carbon is released back into the atmosphere. Fossil fuels represent carbon that was removed from the cycle millions of years ago and is now being rapidly returned to the atmosphere through burning, disrupting the balance. The nitrogen cycle involves nitrogen moving between atmosphere, soil, and organisms, with specialized bacteria converting atmospheric nitrogen into forms plants can use, a process called nitrogen fixation. Other bacteria convert organic nitrogen back into atmospheric nitrogen, completing the cycle. Human activities like synthesizing nitrogen fertilizers have more than doubled the amount of reactive nitrogen in the environment, leading to problems like water pollution and algal blooms. The water cycle involves evaporation from oceans and land, condensation into clouds, precipitation as rain or snow, and runoff back to oceans, with plants playing a role through transpiration, releasing water vapor through leaves. This continuous movement of water distributes heat around the planet and makes water available for life. Ecosystems provide essential services including production of oxygen, purification of water, pollination of crops, regulation of climate, and nutrient cycling. Benefits that are often taken for granted, but are essential for human survival and well-being. Biodiversity, the variety of life at all levels from genetic diversity within species to diversity of species and ecosystems, is valuable both intrinsically and for its contributions to ecosystem stability, resilience, and the services ecosystems provide. However, human activities are driving biodiversity loss at unprecedented rates through habitat destruction, pollution, overexploitation, invasive species, and climate change, prompting many scientists to warn that we are in the midst of a sixth mass extinction event, this one caused by human actions rather than natural catastrophes. Conservation efforts aim to protect and restore biodiversity through establishing protected areas, reducing pollution, managing resources sustainably, and addressing climate change. Recognizing that preserving the diversity of life is essential not only for the intrinsic value of other species, but for the long-term health and prosperity of humanity itself. As you absorb these interconnected facts about the universe, from the cosmos to the cell, from quantum particles to vast ecosystems, may you find comfort in understanding the elegant complexity of existence and your place within this magnificent tapestry of being. A conscious mind contemplating the wonders of a universe that has become aware of itself through you. The concept of deep time, the vast age of the earth and universe, challenges human intuition because our personal experience spans only decades, while geological and cosmic processes unfold over millions or billions of years. To comprehend deep time, imagine compressing Earth's 4.5 billion-year history into a single 24-hour day. The Earth forms at midnight. The first simple life appears around 4 a.m. Photosynthetic bacteria begin producing oxygen around 7 a.m. Complex multicellular life does not appear until about 8:30 p.m. Dinosaurs emerge around 11 p.m. and go extinct at 11:40 p.m., and all of human history occupies the last few seconds before midnight. This perspective reveals how recent humanity is in the grand sweep of Earth's history, and how much time was required for the complex life we see today to evolve. Geology studies Earth's physical structure and substance, its history, and the processes that shape it. Plate tectonics describes how Earth's lithosphere is divided into plates that float on the semi-molten asthenosphere below, slowly moving at rates of a few centimeters per year, about as fast as fingernails grow. These movements cause earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, mountain formation, and ocean floor spreading, reshaping Earth's surface over millions of years. The theory of plate tectonics unified previously disparate observations like the matching shapes of continents, similar fossils on different continents, and the distribution of earthquakes and volcanoes, providing a comprehensive framework for understanding Earth's dynamic nature. Earthquakes occur when stress building up along fault lines exceeds the strength of rocks, causing them to suddenly break and release energy as seismic waves that propagate through the Earth. The magnitude of an earthquake measures the energy released, with each whole number increase representing about 32 times more energy. The Richter scale, now largely replaced by the moment magnitude scale, provides a logarithmic measure that can describe earthquakes ranging from tiny tremors imperceptible to humans to massive quakes that can cause widespread devastation. Volcanic eruptions occur when molten rock called magma rises from deep within Earth, driven by buoyancy and gas pressure, and breaks through the surface. The type of eruption depends on the magma's composition and gas content, with runny basaltic magma producing relatively gentle effusive eruptions like those in Hawaii, while thick viscous magma with high gas content can produce explosive eruptions like Mount St. Helens or Krakatoa that eject ash and rock high into the atmosphere. Volcanic activity, while dangerous locally, has played important roles in Earth's history, releasing gases that form the early atmosphere and oceans. And volcanic ash weathers into nutrient-rich soil that supports lush vegetation. The rock cycle describes how rocks transform from one type to another over time. Igneous rocks form from cooling magma or lava, sedimentary rocks form from compressed sediments, and metamorphic rocks form when existing rocks are transformed by heat and pressure. Each rock type can be converted into another through geological processes, creating a continuous cycle of transformation. Fossils, the preserved remains or traces of ancient organisms, form when organisms are buried in sediment that eventually lithifies into rock. Most organisms decay completely without leaving fossils, so the fossil record is incomplete, preserving only a fraction of past life. Typically organisms with hard parts like shells or bones, and those buried quickly in conditions that prevent decay. Despite these limitations, fossils provide invaluable evidence about the history of life, showing how organisms have changed over time and revealing extinct species that once inhabited Earth. Paleontology, the study of fossils, has revealed remarkable creatures like trilobites, ammonites, dinosaurs, and countless others that flourished and then vanished, demonstrating that the composition of life on Earth has changed dramatically over geological time. The discovery that birds evolved from theropod dinosaurs blurred the distinction between extinct dinosaurs and living animals, reminding us that evolution is a branching tree where some lineages go extinct while others persist and diversify. Transitional fossils document evolutionary changes, showing intermediate forms between major groups, such as Tiktaalik, a fish with features of tetrapods that lived about 375 million years ago, when vertebrates were transitioning from water to land. Such fossils provide direct evidence of evolutionary transitions predicted by evolutionary theory. The study of ancient climates, called paleoclimatology, uses evidence from ice cores, tree rings, sediment layers, and fossils to reconstruct past environmental conditions. Ice cores drilled from glaciers in Greenland and Antarctica contain layers of ice representing thousands of years of snowfall, with air bubbles trapped in the ice providing samples of ancient atmosphere. Analysis of these bubbles shows that carbon dioxide levels and temperature have varied together over hundreds of thousands of years, with higher CO2 corresponding to warmer periods and lower CO2 to ice ages, demonstrating the link between greenhouse gases and global temperature. The industrial era shows CO2 rising to levels not seen in at least 800,000 years, providing context for concerns about current climate change. Astronomy, the study of celestial objects and phenomena beyond Earth's atmosphere, has revealed a cosmos far vaster and more ancient than previous generations imagined. For most of human history, people believed Earth was the center of the universe with everything revolving around it. Copernicus proposed a heliocentric model with the sun at the center, a revolutionary idea that eventually displaced the geocentric model as evidence accumulated, including Galileo's telescopic observations of moons orbiting Jupiter, demonstrating that not everything revolves around Earth. Kepler discovered that planets orbit the sun in elliptical paths rather than perfect circles, and Newton explained these motions using his law of universal gravitation, showing that the same force that makes an apple fall Also, governs planetary motion. Einstein's general relativity refined our understanding further, describing gravity not as a force, but as the curvature of spacetime caused by mass and energy. A description confirmed by observations such as the bending of starlight by the sun during a solar eclipse. The expansion of the universe, discovered by Edwin Hubble in 1929, when he observed that distant galaxies are moving away from us with velocities proportional to their distance, implied that the universe is expanding and must have been smaller in the past. Extrapolating backward leads to the Big Bang theory, which proposes that the universe began approximately 13.8 billion years ago in an incredibly hot, dense state and has been expanding and cooling ever since. Evidence supporting the Big Bang includes the cosmic microwave background radiation, the abundance of light elements like hydrogen and helium, and the large-scale structure of the universe. The Big Bang was not an explosion in space, but an expansion of space itself, carrying matter with it. Meaning there is no center of the expansion, and every point in space can consider itself at the center from its own perspective. Dark matter and dark energy are mysterious components that apparently make up most of the universe's content. Observations of galaxy rotation curves, gravitational lensing, and large-scale structure indicate that visible matter accounts for only about 5% of the universe's total mass-energy content, with dark matter comprising about 27% and dark energy about 68%. Dark matter does not emit, absorb, or reflect light, making it invisible to telescopes, but its gravitational effects are detectable through its influence on visible matter and light. Dark energy is even more mysterious, an unknown form of energy that appears to be causing the expansion of the universe to accelerate, working against gravity's attractive force. Understanding the nature of dark matter and dark energy represents one of the greatest challenges in contemporary physics. Astrobiology explores the possibility of life beyond Earth, examining environments in our solar system and beyond that might harbor life. Mars once had liquid water on its surface, as evidenced by ancient riverbeds and minerals that form in water, making it a prime target in the search for past or present microbial life. Moons like Europa and Enceladus have subsurface oceans beneath their icy crusts, heated by tidal forces, and could potentially provide habitable environments for life. Titan, Saturn's largest moon, has lakes and seas of liquid methane and ethane on its surface, a completely different liquid medium that might support exotic forms of life using different chemistry than water-based Earth life. The discovery of thousands of exoplanets orbiting other stars has revealed that planetary systems are common, with many stars hosting multiple planets. Some exoplanets are located in their star's habitable zone, the range of distances where liquid water could exist on a planet's surface, a key criterion for habitability as we understand it. The sheer number of potentially habitable worlds in our galaxy alone suggests that life, at least in microbial form, may be widespread in the universe. Though intelligent life capable of technology and communication may be far rarer. The Fermi paradox asks why, if the universe is so vast and old with countless potentially habitable planets, we have not detected any signs of alien civilizations. Proposed solutions range from the possibility that life or intelligence is extremely rare, to the idea that technological civilizations tend to destroy themselves, to the possibility that aliens exist but are avoiding contact, to the possibility that we simply have not looked long enough or in the right ways. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence continues through projects like SETI that scan the skies for radio signals or other signs of technology. Closer to home, the incredible diversity of life on Earth continues to surprise scientists. New species are discovered regularly, from remote rainforests to deep ocean trenches to even urban environments. Many species likely remain undiscovered, particularly among insects, microorganisms, and deep-sea creatures. Some organisms thrive in extreme environments once thought uninhabitable, called extremophiles. Thermophiles live in hot springs at temperatures that would cook most organisms. Psychrophiles thrive in Antarctic ice. Acidophils tolerate extremely acidic conditions. Halophiles live in hypersaline environments like the Dead Sea. These extremophiles expand our understanding of the conditions under which life can survive and suggest that habitable zones on other worlds might be broader than previously thought. The discovery of extremophiles living around hydrothermal vents on the ocean floor, deriving energy not from sunlight but from chemicals in the hot water emerging from Earth's crust, revealed entire ecosystems independent of photosynthesis, demonstrating that life can exploit energy sources beyond sunlight. Symbiosis, where different species live in close association, is ubiquitous in nature. Mutualistic symbioses benefit both partners, like flowering plants and their pollinators, coral reefs and their photosynthetic algae, or humans and their gut bacteria. Parasitic relationships benefit one partner at the expense of the other. Commensalism benefits one partner without significantly affecting the other. These relationships highlight the interconnectedness of life and the fact that organisms do not exist in isolation, but as parts of ecological communities. Coevolution occurs when two or more species reciprocally affect each other's evolution, often seen in predator-prey relationships, parasites and hosts, and mutualistic partnerships. The Red Queen hypothesis, named after the character in Alice in Wonderland who must run constantly to stay in the same place, proposes that organisms must constantly adapt and evolve not to gain advantage, but simply to maintain their current fitness relative to co-evolving competitors, predators, and parasites. This creates an evolutionary arms race, where improvements in one species drive counter-adaptations in others in an ongoing cycle. Animal behavior, studied through ethology and behavioral ecology, reveals complex patterns of innate and learned behaviors that enhance survival and reproduction. Innate behaviors are genetically programmed and appear without learning, like a spider spinning its first web or a bird singing its species-specific song without instruction. Learned behaviors are acquired through experience, with different types of learning including habituation, classical conditioning, operant conditioning, and observational learning. Some of the most impressive animal behaviors involve social cooperation and communication. Honeybees communicate through the waggle dance. Ants use chemical pheromones to mark trails and coordinate activities, and many birds use complex vocalizations to defend territories, attract mates, and maintain social bonds. Dolphins use signature whistles that function like names to identify individuals. Elephants communicate over long distances using infrasound and maintain strong family bonds across generations. Chimpanzees use tools, hunt cooperatively, and have complex social structures with politics, alliances, and culture. With different groups exhibiting different traditions in tool use and behavior that are passed down through social learning, rather than genetics. The question of animal consciousness and whether non-human animals have subjective experiences remains controversial, but increasing evidence suggests many animals, particularly mammals and birds, have rich inner lives with emotions, preferences, and even some capacity for planning and self-awareness. The mirror test, where an animal is marked and given access to a mirror to see if it recognizes the mark on itself, has been passed by great apes, elephants, dolphins, and magpies, suggesting some level of self-awareness. Crows and ravens demonstrate remarkable problem-solving abilities, crafting and using tools, planning for future needs, and even understanding cause-and-effect relationships through observation. The cognitive abilities of different species reflect adaptations to their specific ecological niches, rather than a linear hierarchy of intelligence, with different species excelling in different cognitive domains. Human intelligence is characterized by language, abstract reasoning, technological innovation, and culture. But other species demonstrate their own forms of intelligence, adapted to their environments and survival needs. The origin and evolution of human language remains a fascinating puzzle, as language leaves no fossil record, and distinguishing the emergence of language from archaeological evidence is challenging. Anatomical changes like the descended larynx and neural changes in brain structure suggest language capacity evolved gradually, possibly beginning with gestures and simple vocalizations, and developing into the complex grammatical languages we have today. All human languages share certain universal features, suggesting an innate language capacity shaped by evolution. Though the specific language a person speaks is entirely learned through exposure during critical periods of development. Children acquire language with remarkable ease, extracting grammatical rules from examples without explicit instruction, suggesting humans have specialized neural mechanisms for language learning. The relationship between language and thought is debated, with some arguing that language shapes how we think and perceive the world, while others argue that core cognitive abilities are independent of language. Evidence suggests that while language influences some aspects of cognition, particularly in areas like color perception and spatial reasoning where languages differ in their categories, fundamental abilities like recognizing objects, understanding causality, and social reasoning are largely independent of the particular language spoken. Consciousness, self-awareness, free will, and the nature of mind remain profound mysteries that lie at the intersection of neuroscience, psychology, and philosophy. While we can correlate brain activity with conscious states and identify brain regions involved in different mental functions, we cannot yet explain how subjective experience arises from neural activity, how the physical matter of the brain gives rise to the felt quality of seeing red, tasting chocolate, or feeling sad. This explanatory gap between objective descriptions of brain processes and subjective experiences is what philosopher David Chalmers called the hard problem of consciousness. Some propose that consciousness may never be fully explained by physical science because it involves irreducible subjective elements, while others believe future advances in neuroscience will eventually provide satisfying explanations. Questions about free will touch on whether our choices are truly free or determined by prior causes including brain states, genetics, and environment. Compatibilists argue that free will is compatible with determinism if we define freedom as acting according to our desires and reasoning without external coercion, while incompatibilists argue that true freedom requires choices that are not determined by prior states. Neuroscience has shown that brain activity associated with decisions can be detected before people report conscious awareness of making the decision, suggesting that unconscious processes play larger roles in decision-making than we might intuitively believe. Though interpreting these findings and their implications for free will remain controversial. The mind-body problem, how mental states relate to physical states, has occupied philosophers for centuries. Dualism, proposed by Descartes, posits that mind and body are separate substances, but this view struggles to explain how they interact. Physicalism holds that mental states are ultimately physical states or processes in the brain, avoiding the interaction problem but facing challenges explaining subjective experience. These deep questions connect to practical concerns about consciousness in artificial systems, animal minds, and potential future technologies. As artificial intelligence becomes more sophisticated, questions arise about whether machines could ever have genuine understanding, consciousness, or moral status. Current AI systems, despite impressive capabilities in narrow domains, lack general intelligence, common sense, and any evidence of subjective experience. Operating through statistical pattern matching and optimization rather than understanding. Whether consciousness requires biological substrates or could arise in silicon-based systems remains unknown. Rest now as these questions and facts settle into your mind, connecting scientific understanding with ancient philosophical puzzles, demonstrating that science enhances rather than diminishes the wonder and mystery of existence, revealing layers of complexity and beauty at every scale from quantum foam to cosmic web, from neural networks to social connections, inviting endless exploration and contemplation of this magnificent universe we inhabit and the brief, precious opportunity we have to witness and understand it. The history of scientific discovery is filled with brilliant insights, painstaking observations, creative hypotheses, and occasional serendipitous accidents that changed our understanding of nature. Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin when he noticed that mold contaminating his bacterial cultures had killed the surrounding bacteria, launching the antibiotic revolution. The structure of DNA was elucidated by James Watson and Francis Crick, building on X-ray crystallography work by Rosalind Franklin and Morris Wilkins, revealing the double helix that encodes genetic information. Marie Curie's pioneering research on radioactivity earned her 2 Nobel Prizes and opened new fields of physics and chemistry. Though her work with radioactive materials ultimately contributed to her death from aplastic anemia. These stories remind us that scientific progress depends on human curiosity, creativity, and persistence, often building on accumulated knowledge from many contributors across generations. The scientific method provides a systematic approach to investigating nature through observation, forming testable hypotheses, conducting experiments, analyzing results, and drawing conclusions. Controlled experiments isolate variables to determine causal relationships, with experimental groups receiving a treatment and control groups serving as baseline comparisons. Statistical analysis helps distinguish genuine effects from random variation, with concepts like p-values, confidence intervals, and effect sizes quantifying the strength and reliability of findings. Replication, where independent researchers repeat experiments to verify results, is essential for confirming discoveries and weeding out errors or flukes. Peer review, where experts evaluate research before publication, helps maintain quality standards and catch methodological flaws. Though it is not perfect, and sometimes significant findings are initially rejected while flawed work is published. The self-correcting nature of science means that wrong ideas are eventually identified and discarded as evidence accumulates, though this process can take time. And consensus shifts gradually rather than instantly. Scientific theories are comprehensive explanations for natural phenomena supported by substantial evidence from multiple sources. Not mere guesses or speculations, as the term theory is sometimes used colloquially. Evolution, gravity, atomic theory, and germ theory are all scientific theories in this technical sense, representing our best current understanding based on available evidence. Scientific laws describe observed regularities in nature, often expressed mathematically, like Newton's laws of motion or the laws of thermodynamics. The first law of thermodynamics states that energy cannot be created or destroyed, but only transformed from one form to another, meaning the total energy in an isolated system remains constant. The second law states that entropy, a measure of disorder, tends to increase in isolated systems, meaning natural processes tend toward greater randomness and energy dispersal. This law explains why heat flows from hot to cold objects, why perfume spreads through a room, and why perpetual motion machines are impossible. The second law has profound implications, suggesting that the universe is moving toward a state of maximum entropy called heat death, where all energy is evenly distributed and no useful work can be done, though this end state is trillions upon trillions of years in the future. Thermodynamics connects to information theory through concepts like entropy, which in information theory measures uncertainty or information content. Remarkably, the same mathematical formalism describes both physical entropy and information entropy, suggesting deep connections between physics and information. Some physicists propose that information may be as fundamental as matter and energy, with the universe perhaps best understood as a computational process, with physical laws acting like algorithms. These speculative ideas push at the boundaries of current understanding, reminding us that science is not a closed book, but an ongoing endeavor with many open questions and opportunities for transformative discoveries. The tools and techniques of modern science are themselves technological marvels, enabling observations impossible with unaided human senses. Microscopes reveal worlds too small to see, from cells to bacteria to viruses, to individual molecules and atoms using scanning probe and electron microscopes. Telescopes gather and focus light from distant sources, with larger telescopes collecting more light and revealing fainter objects, while interferometry combines signals from multiple telescopes to achieve resolution equivalent to a much larger telescope. Spectroscopy analyzes light to determine composition, temperature, density, and motion of objects, working because different elements emit and absorb light at characteristic wavelengths, creating unique spectral fingerprints. This technique allows astronomers to determine what distant stars are made of without physically sampling them, demonstrating the power of indirect observation and inference. Particle accelerators like the Large Hadron Collider smash particles together at high energies, recreating conditions that existed fractions of a second after the Big Bang, and allowing physicists to study fundamental particles and forces. The discovery of the Higgs boson at the LHC in 2012 confirmed predictions of the Standard Model of particle physics and revealed the mechanism giving particles mass. Genetic sequencing technologies have advanced from taking years and costing billions to sequence a human genome to taking days and costing hundreds of dollars, democratizing genomics and enabling personalized medicine. Brain imaging techniques like fMRI allow neuroscientists to observe brain activity in living humans performing cognitive tasks, revealing which brain regions are involved in perception, memory, emotion, and decision-making, though interpreting these colorful brain scans requires care as they show correlation, not necessarily causation. The limitations of scientific knowledge must be acknowledged alongside its successes. Science cannot answer all questions, particularly normative questions about values, meaning, and purpose that lie outside its domain. Science can inform ethical decisions by revealing consequences of actions, but cannot determine what ought to be valued or what constitutes the good life. These remain matters of philosophy, culture, and individual choice. Science also faces practical limitations, as some phenomena are difficult or impossible to study experimentally due to ethical constraints, practical impossibility, or inherent unpredictability. Historical sciences like cosmology, geology, and evolutionary biology face the challenge that past events cannot be observed directly and must be inferred from present evidence. though multiple independent lines of evidence often converge on the same conclusions, providing confidence even without direct observation. Uncertainty is inherent in science, with measurements having limited precision, models making simplifying assumptions, and complex systems exhibiting unpredictable behavior. Weather prediction demonstrates these challenges, as the atmosphere is a chaotic system where tiny differences in initial conditions can lead to vastly different outcomes, limiting accurate forecasts to about a week despite sophisticated models and observations, a phenomenon popularized as the butterfly effect. Chaos theory studies systems that are deterministic yet unpredictable, sensitive to initial conditions, such that long-term behavior cannot be reliably predicted even when underlying rules are known. This appears in many natural systems, from weather to population dynamics to the orbits of planets over long time scales. Complexity science studies how simple rules can give rise to complex emergent behaviors in systems with many interacting components, behaviors that cannot be understood by studying components in isolation. Ant colonies, flocks of birds, markets, and ecosystems all exhibit emergent properties arising from interactions among individuals following relatively simple local rules. Understanding these complex adaptive systems requires different approaches than traditional reductionist science that breaks systems into parts, instead focusing on patterns, networks, and dynamics. Network science reveals that many systems, from social networks to food webs to the internet to metabolic pathways in cells, share common organizational principles like scale-free degree distributions, where a few highly connected hubs link many less connected nodes, and small world properties, where any two nodes can be connected through surprisingly few intermediate steps, the 6 degrees of separation phenomenon. These structural patterns affect system function, resilience, and vulnerability, with removal of a few critical hubs potentially fragmenting networks, while removal of random nodes has little effect. The interconnectedness of natural and social systems means changes propagate through networks in complex ways, sometimes triggering cascading failures or tipping points, where systems shift abruptly from one state to another. Climate tipping points represent potential thresholds, where gradual warming could trigger rapid changes like collapse of ice sheets, disruption of ocean circulation patterns, or release of methane from thawing permafrost, changes that could be irreversible on human timescales and amplify warming beyond initial forcing. Understanding and predicting such tipping points is crucial for risk assessment and decision-making. The precautionary principle suggests that when an action could cause severe harm and scientific uncertainty exists about consequences, caution should be exercised even before scientific consensus is achieved, though applying this principle requires balancing risks of action against risks of inaction. Science intersects with society through technology, policy, and culture, with scientific discoveries enabling technologies that transform how we live while raising ethical and social questions. Nuclear physics enabled nuclear power and nuclear weapons, forcing society to grapple with dual-use technologies that can provide benefits or cause catastrophic harm depending on how they are used. Genetic engineering allows precise modifications to genomes, offering possibilities for treating genetic diseases, enhancing crop yields, and even potentially modifying human embryos, raising questions about safety, equity, and the boundaries of acceptable intervention. Artificial intelligence and automation promise increased productivity and convenience, but also raise concerns about employment, privacy, bias, and control. These examples show that scientific and technological capabilities develop faster than social institutions and ethical frameworks for governing them. creating lag times where society must adapt to new realities. Public understanding of science affects societal responses to challenges like pandemics, climate change, and technological risks. Yet science communication faces barriers including complexity of concepts, cognitive biases, motivated reasoning, and deliberate misinformation. Building scientific literacy and critical thinking skills helps individuals navigate information environments and make informed decisions, while also fostering appreciation for the process and achievements of science. The story of the universe science reveals, from the Big Bang to the present moment, from quantum fluctuations to galactic superclusters, from the first self-replicating molecules to human consciousness pondering its own existence, is a narrative of unfolding complexity and emergent order, arising from simple physical laws and chance events, playing out over vast expanses of time. Matter and energy have organized themselves into stars and planets, into life and ecosystems, into brains and minds capable of understanding their own origins and contemplating their place in the cosmos. This scientific worldview, far from being cold or reductionist, reveals a universe of astonishing beauty, complexity, and interconnectedness, where hydrogen atoms forged in the Big Bang have become capable of reflecting on their own existence. The fact that the universe can be understood at all, that mathematical laws discovered by minds shaped by evolution to navigate earthly environments also describe cosmic phenomena, suggests deep connections between mind and cosmos that philosophers and scientists continue to explore. Whether this reflects some fundamental relationship between consciousness and physical reality, or simply demonstrates that minds shaped by the universe naturally reflect its structures, remains an open question. Your journey through these scientific facts, absorbing them as you rest, connects you to the great human project of understanding nature through reason, observation, and evidence. Each generation builds on the discoveries of predecessors, expanding the sphere of knowledge while remaining humble about how much remains unknown. The frontiers of science, from the quantum realm to the cosmic horizon, from the origins of life to the nature of consciousness, offer endless opportunities for discovery and wonder. As you drift into deeper rest, may these facts comfort and inspire you, reminding you of your connection to the cosmos, the elegance of natural law, the resilience and creativity of life, and the power of human curiosity to illuminate even the darkest mysteries. You are made of stardust pondering its own nature, a way for the universe to know itself. A brief but meaningful chapter in the ongoing story of complexity and consciousness, emerging from the quantum foam. Sleep well, knowing that tomorrow brings new opportunities to explore, learn, and wonder at the magnificent universe we inhabit. A universe that becomes more beautiful and mysterious the more deeply we understand it, revealing that science and wonder are not opposites, but partners in the eternal human quest to comprehend existence and our place within it. The diversity of scientific disciplines reflects the many facets of nature we seek to understand. Physics explores matter, energy, space, and time, from subatomic particles to the cosmos itself. Chemistry studies substances and their transformations, revealing how atoms combine and recombine to create the material world. Biology investigates living systems from molecules to ecosystems, uncovering the principles of life. Geology examines Earth's structure and history. Astronomy studies celestial objects and phenomena. Psychology explores mind and behavior. Each discipline has its own methods, vocabulary, and concepts. Yet increasingly scientists recognize that nature does not respect these artificial boundaries, and the most interesting phenomena often lie at the interfaces between traditional disciplines, giving rise to interdisciplinary fields like biochemistry, astrobiology, neuroscience, and complex systems science. Mathematics, often called the language of science, provides the tools for describing patterns, making predictions, and testing theories with precision. Mathematical models simplify reality by focusing on key variables and relationships, while ignoring less important details, allowing scientists to make tractable calculations and testable predictions. Models are always approximations, capturing some aspects of reality while omitting others, and the art of modeling involves knowing what to include and what to ignore. Simple models like the ideal gas law or projectile motion neglecting air resistance provide useful predictions under appropriate conditions while being mathematically tractable. More complex models incorporating additional factors provide greater accuracy at the cost of increased complexity. Computer simulations allow exploration of mathematical models too complex for analytical solution, enabling scientists to study phenomena from climate dynamics to galaxy formation to protein folding to epidemic spread. The exponential growth of computing power has revolutionized many sciences, enabling data analysis, simulations, and visualizations impossible with earlier technologies. Big data and machine learning are transforming scientific practice, with algorithms finding patterns in massive datasets from genomics to astronomy to particle physics, sometimes discovering relationships humans might miss. Yet human insight, creativity, and judgment remain essential for formulating questions, designing experiments, interpreting results, and understanding meaning. Technology and pure science exist in symbiotic relationship, with basic research driven by curiosity about nature often leading to unexpected applications, while technological needs drive research in particular directions. Quantum mechanics, initially a purely theoretical framework for understanding atoms, enabled development of transistors, lasers, and nuclear technology. Research into electromagnetism by Faraday, Maxwell, and others driven by scientific curiosity laid groundwork for electrical generation, motors, radio, and all modern electronics. The World Wide Web was created at CERN to facilitate sharing of research among particle physicists and became one of the most transformative technologies in human history. These examples show that supporting basic research yields benefits that cannot always be predicted in advance. As the path from fundamental discovery to practical application often involves unexpected twists and can span decades. The interconnection of all scientific knowledge means that advances in one area often enable progress in others. Development of X-ray crystallography enabled determination of molecular structures, including DNA and proteins. Particle accelerators developed for physics research found applications in cancer treatment. GPS satellites require accounting for both special and general relativistic effects on time to provide accurate positioning, demonstrating that arcane theories have practical implications. Your daily experience is shaped by countless scientific discoveries and technological innovations. From the electricity powering your devices to the materials in your clothing, to the medications keeping you healthy to the crops feeding you. Selectively bred over millennia, and more recently enhanced through understanding of genetics. The food you eat has been shaped by human selection, with modern corn, wheat, and livestock bearing little resemblance to their wild ancestors, demonstrating evolutionary change driven by artificial rather than natural selection. Agriculture itself represents humanity's first systematic application of empirical observation and experimentation to modify nature for human benefit. Beginning thousands of years before the scientific method was formalized. Science offers not just practical benefits, but intellectual and spiritual rewards, connecting us to something larger than ourselves. grounding us in reality while pointing toward mysteries that may never be fully resolved, providing both humility about our limitations and pride in our achievements. Let these facts comfort you as you drift toward sleep, knowing that reality is even more wonderful than dreams, that the universe is both comprehensible and mysterious, that you are part of an ancient lineage of curious minds seeking truth, and that tomorrow offers new opportunities to learn, explore, and marvel at the magnificent cosmos that has given rise to you. A brief but precious consciousness contemplating existence itself in the eternal now, the only moment that ever truly exists, this present instant where past and future meet, where the universe knows itself through you.